Raff Rant. I'm Raff.
And I'm Raff. We're Raff.
Raff Farispo of the Far From Vesuvius podcast. That's Ralph Pizarro of Calcio Napoli Club. Just rant about Napoli.
Let's go for it.
We're going to rant. We're going to match report. We're going to talk about the games. We're going to talk about topics. You leave comments and we'll read your comments out, question you.
All right. Quick stats.
Yes. Throw the stats up there. On to a nice little segment that we're going to call the Beast of the Match.
Who is beasting it for the Napoli team? Let's see.
Follow us on Facebook, Raffaele Rispo, Ralph Pizarro, Twitter at RaffaNapoli83. That's me.
CNC USA 26.
I want some feedback to the show. What do you guys want to see? What do you want to see more or less of? This is going to be a show for you guys too. I want a lot of comments.
We want to rant about something. Let us know if you want us to rant about something.
I promise you, we're not going to agree on everything all the time.
We won't.
We're going to yell at each other every now and then.
Come and rant. This is what it's for. We want to give you a space to let loose so you can do it here.
Well, that's going to do it, Ralph. Were we boring enough for you?
I don't know. I think we were great.
Let's get to it.
Madonna do Carmen, aiutici tu.
And benvenuti, fellas and bellas all over the world. Welcome to another edition of the Raff and Raff Rant. I am Raff Pizarro, joined by my co-host, the Vicar of Vesuvius, holding up the Pitania, the game-winning goal scorer, Rafa Rispo. Welcome, Rafa. How are we doing today, sir? Love it.
Oh, we are doing wonderful. Andrea Petagna, the hero, the savior of Napoli in Genova. And to talk about some Petagna news, we have a very special guest today, don't we, Raff?
Yes, we do. He is Jay from Napoli News. You can catch him on Twitter. He's joining us today to talk all about El Mercato. But without further ado, by the way, welcome to everybody in the chat. Let's get this rant on the road, guys. We're gonna have a lovely episode, but let's not delay any further. Jay from Napoli News. Here he is. Welcome, sir. Welcome, Jay. Nice round of applause, please, sir.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you. How are we doing today? Now, you're in England now, right, Jay? Right? So you're a few hours ahead. So thank you for being a trooper and staying up with us. I know you always come into the chat. You're in the news, so you're with us late nights. You do like the little late night show with us anyway. So, but now we have you here. And I'm super excited to talk to you today. We got plenty of fans for viewers in the chat as well. But how you doing tonight overall? How's things? How's the weather in England tonight? It was hot here in New York.
No, it's not so hot here. Quite cold.
All right.
The transfer market's keeping me warm.
All right. Yeah. Yes,
right.
It is. Yes,
warm
it is.
and fuzzy, isn't it?
Yeah, let's get that banner up
It
right
is
away.
today.
The Mercato, right? This episode, we're going to speak a lot about that today. I know, Jay, you have your Twitter handle at SSC Napoli News, and you post, quite frequently. It's a wonderful service, by the way. If anybody is not familiar with it, Rafa, you want to describe it? You do it so well.
I do. I need
Please.
to say this because
Please,
a lot
you
of
do it so well.
Well, listen, a lot of fans on Twitter, right? Most of them know what your deal is, but a lot of fans on Twitter get so upset with you for just posting the news. And all you're doing is translating various news topics from various news outlets. So when they see a post that Andrea Petagna is off to Sampdoria, and then 2 minutes later they see, oh, Sampdoria is not asking for him, or, not, and then I'll put a frustrating one. Insigne is signing, Insigne is not signing. Insigne is signing, Insigne is not signing. All you're doing is translating the regurgitation that is the ridiculousness of the Italian newspapers.
Right.
But you, my friend, are doing a service that everybody here really needs, and I believe it's so great for the Napoli English community that you're doing what you're doing, because without, and it's translation with context, it's not just like copy paste. It's definitely something that I applaud you for. I thank you for, because I get all my news from you. Not that I can't read in Italian, but you do it so well that it's like on my timeline at the right time. So I'm just getting the news from you. So it's just a fantastic thing that you do, and it's a dedication to do that, because I know I can't do it. I'm sure Raff can't do it. It's just
not that consistently.
Another applause to you, aside from the one that you received on the way in. But and something that I really want to bring up, Raff and I were talking about this with you before we went on the air, is you just recently went on Joe Fischetti's podcast, Calcio Napoli Worldwide, on the Forza Napoli Calcio podcast, and you told your story. So we're not going to ask you to tell the whole story again. We're going to have you guys, please, if you haven't yet, which I'm sure you have, but if you haven't yet, go visit Joe Fischetti and check his podcast out, Forza Napoli Calcio, the Napoli Worldwide, with Jay on it. Mm-hmm. But Raff and I had a sort of like an interest in one of your stories about FIFA. We want you to retell that story. About FIFA and Napoli and your decision to choose Napoli as a team.
Well, basically, I used to play a lot of football when I was younger, and as you do, as you get a bit older, you get knocks, you get bangs, bumps. I ended up with quite a bad knee injury, and it didn't stop my love for football, but it was really hard to be around football, if that makes sense. But not being able to play, I mean, I still to this day I can't play. Unfortunately, I'm still waiting for operations, things like that. It's one thing after another. But anyway, after about maybe a year after suffering the injury, I was around a friend's house, just our usual weekly catch up. An old school friend, we'd always meet up once a week, and we'd play a bit of FIFA, have a chat. And anyway, we decided that one night we'd play with teams that we'd never played with before. And I think, if I remember correctly, I ended up on Napoli because of the match against Chelsea the previous year in the Champions League, which obviously was. Yeah, it was a really good game. Obviously,
unforgettable.
Yeah, absolutely unforgettable. And basically, I was losing, and I was getting a lot of stick, a lot of hassle. And then the mighty Gökhan Inler scored two nice, curling, almost Insigne-like shots into the far post in the last 10 minutes, and I won. And I just enjoyed playing with Napoli, so I played a few more games, and then. I think it maybe that weekend or the weekend after I watched Napoli live. And I just started watching the games, and it spiraled and it spiraled and it spiraled. And that Christmas, I got my first ever Napoli shirt with, of course, Gökhan on the back.
All right.
And yeah, it was a love story. I fell in love with Napoli. I fell in love with football again. Watching it really, it lit me up. It really lit that flame that had maybe gone out slightly. And now
it must. I mentioned it must. We were saying earlier. I was like, it must have been destiny, because I think that's how it is with Napoli, right? It like you said, you fall in love. It's more than just rooting for a team. Sometimes, right? I think it becomes ingrained in you. It becomes a part of you. It alters your DNA or something. Or something happens wild when it comes.
This is why I love doing. This is why I love doing what I do on the page, because over here there's not a big calcio community. There's not obviously a big. I mean, I don't know any Napoli fans personally. I actually only know one other Italian football fan, and he's a guy I know there's a club in London for the last year. Yeah, there is Napoli Club London, and I actually bumped into them at the Bournemouth pre-season friendly a couple of years ago.
Oh, right.
I mentioned on Joe Fischetti's pod. So I did bump in. I went to the Liverpool game we had as well a couple of years ago, which was quite nice because I went with two of my best friends from who all support Liverpool, and of course we won 3-0. So that was a nice day out as well. But this is why, like I said, this is why I love to come onto Twitter and why I came onto Twitter, because around here there aren't many Napoli fans, there aren't many Italian football fans. So for me to share my love for Napoli and my passion for Napoli and Italian football, this is the only way I can do it. And to obviously link up with guys like you, and obviously hear all your great knowledge, your great stories. Joe himself on the podcast, had a great chat with Joe. And just everybody, it's just, it's so nice to be able to come to somewhere and feel a part of it. I think that's the thing. I want to feel a part of it, and being on Twitter helps me to feel a part of it. I mean, I would love I would love to have a group around here, but I just don't. Sadly, I don't think there's enough people to make a group.
Understood. Well, you're certainly in our hearts here, at least in the States, in Canada. I will say that I'm in a couple chats and on Twitter, and they're constantly sharing your tweets in the chats. So it's not just retweeting on the wall, but also we're sparking conversation. We're sparking conversation in privately about what you are reporting. So I don't know if you know that, but I wanted you to know that.
No, I didn't. And I appreciate what Rafa said as well. It's really nice what he said. I think he probably described it better than I could, because obviously I share the news that I see, and that's why I always provide a source, because obviously I'm not personally sharing this news. I don't know this news until I read it myself, and I share it with everybody else. And that's why I always like to provide a source so that people know where it's coming from, because as we all know, we have our favorite sources, and if you put a source there, if you want to believe that person, you can believe that person. If you don't, you don't.
Right. Well, I think you
I love the posts that you.
Go ahead, Rafa.
No, that's okay. There might be a little bit of a delay here.
Yeah.
I might have froze. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, good. No, are we in sync? Because there was a minute of. It's okay. I think what I like a lot about your account too is that, like you just mentioned, you putting the sources, underneath, where you're giving the you're giving the credibility to where it's due. This is not you posting it. I might be even guilty of, for Far From Vesuvius, posting something I saw and forgetting to just mention the source. So now what I've been doing is just sharing where I found the source from, and then saying, hey, check this out, guys. So but what you done is great. And then I also really like when you put the news out, right? And then underneath it, you're like, this might be good, or yeah, this could be the good move, or this could be a bad move, or just you're giving sentiment to how you feel about it as well. I do like to hear from Jay the guy. I didn't even know your name before Joe Fischetti's pod. So Ken is writing in the chat, said something about so good to put a face to the name.
Yeah.
So we put a voice to the name with Joe, but we're putting a face to the name here for you. So I'm really happy that you're in here. Also, Old Orchard Beach represent. What's up? Cosimo Dante is saying Old Orchard Beach in the house. I just visited there a couple weeks ago. Beautiful. Haven't been there since I was a kid. Let me know if that was you that was there on vacation when I was there, because I know that there was a listener of ours, Raff, that was at Old Orchard Beach when I was there.
When you went
a couple
recently?
weeks ago.
Recently? Oh.
Yeah, and we just kind of crossed paths, and it might be him there, or I'm not sure if he lives there. I think
is it Cosmo?
Cool
Is it this guy?
Yeah, okay, yeah, Cosmo. Yeah, he says.
Oh, that's awesome.
He says, "Yep." So he was visiting, and the day he left was the day we got there. So we took a picture in the same spot. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Warm water, huh?
I wonder if he took a picture where he was when I was on the phone with you, because we were talking also when I was on vacation. Remember?
That's right.
We were setting up the whole thing. Yeah.
What a small
but anyway,
world,
we're flying off topic. I just wanted to recognize the chat.
Yes.
For a second.
I'm going to take
and before you
question.
were able to post it, but yeah.
I'm going to take one more getting to know question. It's from Matteo Casella. He's a great viewer here on the rant. Do you support an English club as well, or is it solely Napoli, Jay?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Thank you, Matteo.
I'd say solely Napoli.
Solely Napoli, huh?
Yeah,
solely Napoli.
Really
I
mean,
hey.
English football. I think Raff touched upon it the other day. He was on about rules and suspensions, and I said that the Premier League is a 3-game suspension for a red card.
Right.
So I know all the rules from growing up as a kid, but I can honestly say I don't really watch much English football at all anymore.
Okay.
Did you all anymore? But did you before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Growing up, I did. I kind of supported a lot of clubs. I suppose my first club, if I was going to say my first club I ever supported, would have been Liverpool. That was when I was a kid, and it was because I remember watching a Match of the Day episode, and Patrick Berger scored a screamer of a free kick and a lovely green away kick that Liverpool had years and years and years ago, and that stuck in my mind. And So they probably would have been the first club I ever remember supporting. But I tended to be a football fan,
Okay.
if that makes sense. So I watched a lot of football. I went to a lot of different matches, a lot of different teams, without really nailing my colours to the mast, if that makes sense.
Copy that. I have a friend of mine. His name is Frank Visioni, and he's in our group, Couch Napoli Club USA. He also happens to live in New York. He's a friend of mine. Big Chelsea supporter as well as Napoli supporter. I mean, both just as big. And he always says to me that Napoli is my mother, but Chelsea is my girlfriend. So I don't know. I guess like a lot of people have like maybe a similar setup to them. But either way, we're here now. You got your Napoli kit on. I love it. We're big drip here. But let's talk about this Mercato, because when you were on the Forza Napoli podcast with Joe Fischetti, we didn't. I mean, that was what, like a week or two ago. So
yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Obviously, the things were slightly different. I know we were hell bent on Emerson. That was, I know everybody said, not just you, but everybody said how much of that was probably going to happen. Obviously, he ended up signing for Lyon, right? Lyon, am I correct?
Yeah.
So much has changed since then. I want to get into a little bit about the market, even maybe stretching from like 2019 kind of way all up until now, and how you view it. I'd like to pick your brain and then kind of like finish off with maybe how Napoli looks for you this year, how the market is this year. So let's start at 2019. Can we do that? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Is that cool? All right.
Yeah.
We picked up that year. I think we picked up Lozano, Elmas, Manolas, Di Lorenzo. I believe Meret came that year. I believe Ospina came that
Officially,
year.
I think we paid the fee, didn't we, that year? I think
right, for the loan
from the year before. Yeah.
Right. You're right. De Laurentiis is not. I think some people give him a lot of crap, but I know he has held on real tight to these, these quote unquote key players. Can you just talk to me about real quick, overall personality of ADL, and how do you think he acts in the market for Napoli?
Well, I'm in the group where I think he gets a lot of stick for not a lot of reason, really. At the end of the day, there's a lot of clubs, and there's no point in naming clubs. We know the clubs who aren't bothered about generating debt. They're just bothered about results and trying to win trophies. And a lot of people, I think, give ADL unfair criticism, saying that he doesn't want to spend his own money. He doesn't want to go into debt. He doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, if it was about money for ADL, he has had so many opportunities to sell the likes of, say, Koulibaly. He could have sold Koulibaly in every window from probably 2018 onwards for, well, I think Man United had a bid of 110 million, was it, a couple of years ago?
It was around that, yeah.
And even last season, Koulibaly could have gone to Man City last summer for, 75 million. Now, if ADL was all about the money and was so, bothered about the money, he would have sold Koulibaly. He would have sold other players. He would have probably sold Fabian after he was the under-21s European Player of the Year at the Championship a couple of years ago.
Spain that year, right.
That year, 2019, we operated on a deficit that year. We spent more than we made. So we can't turn around and say that he doesn't support the team. And I remember that summer, if that was the summer everyone was getting excited. That was the summer that everyone believed that we could pick up the next level, and we brought in Manolas for 36 million, a centre back for 36 million, which is something that you'd never think we'd do 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Right.
We made big purchases. Di Lorenzo obviously been one of the bargains, and probably one of the best bargains in Serie A over the last I don't know how many years. I mean, the way he's turned out, obviously, is absolutely fantastic. Lozano obviously had that tough first season, but he's come good. These investments, we could have easily sold a player like Koulibaly to cover the transfer fees. And that year, we wouldn't have made a deficit. We would have actually made more money than we spent. But we didn't. And we didn't because ADL wanted us to be competitive. He wanted us to have a strong team and be able to push on and challenge for the Scudetto. So to me, I understand some people's frustration. This summer in particular, it's been very frustrating. But obviously, there's reasons for that. Obviously, COVID. We've had a whole season where, we haven't had fans in stadiums. So we've lost revenue there. There's a whole host of reasons. Plus, I mean, as we should say about ADL, the last 3 summers until this summer, we'd broke our transfer record in each of the last 3 summers.
Right.
Even last summer, when the COVID pandemic had already hit, we still went out and invested a big sum of money. Although, to be fair, last summer we were benefiting from the fact that we'd done a number of deals in the previous summer, loans with obligations, which meant we had a lot more money to play with. We had Verdi going to Torino for 20 million, and Glacy went to Parma for 20 million. Grassi went to Parma for 7.6 million. Kirikes went to Sassuolo for 8.5. Marco Rog went to Cagliari for 13 million. Plus, we had the 22 million from Alan's sale. So
that was a big that was a big summer incoming. Yeah,
it was huge, and that meant that we could break our transfer record and we could go and buy Victor Osimhen. Obviously, this year is different. We're another year into the pandemic. As I say, we've had a year without fans in stadiums. We haven't got these loan with obligations that are going to bring in a big sum of money this summer. And personally, I know you had a big conversation a couple of weeks ago on would you go all in for a Scudetto and then rebuild the team? And personally, I'm against that. No, I wouldn't want to do that. Yes, I have times I'm frustrated. Am I frustrated we haven't got a left back? I'm very frustrated. But would I like to see us go in debt to try and do that? And we know the perils of debt. I don't want to see that personally. I have this utopia dream, which will probably never happen, although obviously I hope it does, that one day we will win a Scudetto debt-free. We will be the team that wins a Scudetto with no debt.
It could happen. It could happen. I mean, this is the season. Honestly, I mean, listen, I'm not predicting a Scudetto here. I will make like I mentioned before, I will make a 1-20 prediction after the Mercato is closed tomorrow. But there's no reason why we can't seriously contend for Scudetto this season, even if Juventus is still in the mix. I do believe that it could be a 3-horse race. I mean, then you got Lazio, Roma, and it's feasible. It's feasible, but yeah, you're right. A debt-free Scudetto would be better than any other Scudetto, if you ask me.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we saw in January 2020, we I don't want to say we splurged, but we certainly reinforced. We got a few signings coming away with, between Deme, Labotko, I believe Rahmani was in there, Patania as well. Whereas last January, it was
Politano on loan as well.
Right, Politano. I think that's about it. I got in my notes. But either way, compared to what we saw this January, I mean, it was completely... This January, we did nothing. And I remember, we had started the rant in this January, and I remember speaking to Dom from Napoli Talk. He was here, and he had the comment of, hey, if we can get to the Champions League with the team that we have currently, there's no reason ADL is going to go out and reinforce anybody. And he did it. I mean, I think we sold Llorente, or we've loaned him out. There was another exit from our team. We had a couple, but Younes, I believe we loaned out or we sold as well. How do you, now that we come to the summer, and we all saw the result. We finished out of the Champions League. I don't know if a January market would have made a difference, but I think this is a question that's on a lot of people's mind, and I just want to go over it real quick. Do you think the lack of market for Napoli last January 2021, made a difference between us not making the Champions League, or between all the injuries and Gattuso and all the other drama, COVID, it was kind of a coin toss? I'd like to know briefly how you feel about that, and then we can kind of move into our summer market.
Obviously, with the amount of injuries we had, if we had more bodies in, then who knows? It's hard to say if they would have made a difference. But ultimately, I'd say no, because at the end of the day, the last game of the season, if we won that game against Verona, we were in the Champions League. The weekend before, we all saw the Inter Juve game. If that penalty hadn't been given, the penalty that wasn't a penalty, we would have been in the Champions League. The Osimhen's second goal against Cagliari, if that had been given, we would have been in the Champions League. I think clearly those opportunities were there, and all we had to do on that last day was win. So no,
one goal away.
I wouldn't blame the market. I wouldn't blame the January market for the failure to qualify for the Champions League, because the opportunities were there to take them. And on that last day of the season, we had. I mean, I can't remember exactly, but to my memory, we had a full squad. So we had a full squad to pick from. We weren't suffering from injuries.
We dropped the ball. We dropped the ball.
We weren't patched. This is the thing, and it would be so easy to blame that penalty decision, that referee, that VAR decision not to give the Osman goal. But ultimately, that last game of the season, it was in our hands. We had the chance, and we didn't take it, and that hurts. That I'm sure that still hurts you. It still hurts me now. It's hurt me this in the market. Every time you miss a play, you think, well, if we'd have got that fourth spot, the top four, we'd have got in the Champions League. We've got that Champions League money. You know, things might have been slightly different, but I think now's a new season. We've got a new manager. I think we just have to look to the future, have to look positive. And yeah, in answer to your question, no, I don't think we can blame that on the market. I think the opportunities were there. We just didn't take them.
I'm with you there. I think, Rafa, if you want to chime in about that a little bit. I know we've spoken a whole lot about Verona. I don't want, I don't want to.
You know what? I don't want to chime in. You know why I don't want to chime in?
Why not?
I don't want to chime in because that's in the past. Yeah. It's in the past, man. It's over with. It's done. Rafi, I think you and I should hit this Mercato with SSC Napoli news. It's past is the past. We didn't make the Champions League. That's it. We're in the Europa League this year. We played Leicester City, Spartak Moscow, and I'm not.
I just wanted one more confirmation.
No. I'm not discrediting your question because we have someone who's plugged in. You know, by copying and posting this news bit, he's well informed. So he's, there is the guy. This is the guy to ask. But at the same time, we can't keep dwelling on the past, guys. Like this is done. It's done.
Yeah.
The Mercato cost Napoli a Scudetto a couple seasons back. Yes, the Mercato, I don't think cost Napoli the Champions League last season. Done. This season, though, when all was looking so bleak, Jay, Napoli comes in and hits us with a stunner. And it's a name that's not very familiar, but, here comes Zambo Anguissa from Everton on a loan with, I believe, the option to buy it at about 12 million or something like that. Could this be the coup of the Mercato that nobody really expected? You saw Juve beef up with Locatelli, and now Moiskin's coming in. They're talking about, possibly Pjanic back, possibly who else was it? And it doesn't matter. You have Inter, who made a whole bunch of moves. Correa made a big impact. Last weekend, Dzeko made a big impact. You got Milan. You got Lazio, apparently, for Zaccagni, now that we saw Jay Mancini very, very so kindly stick it in our face that our boy Zaccagni is going to Lazio instead of Napoli. Thanks a lot, Jerry.
He said this much earlier, by the way. I wanted to put it on. I was reading at the right time.
I know. But, my man, like, this Anguissa, I've seen his stuff. It's amazing. I think this will blow any transfer out of the water. But are you surprised by that, Jay? Napoli's scouting is really literally second to none. Without having won a Scudetto, Napoli's scouting is impeccable. And he's 25, but what do you think about this move? How do you feel about it being so late in the Mercato? How do you feel about it being like an unknown to the Serie A world? What do you feel about this?
I think I think you just put it quite well. I think this could be secretly and on the low key one of the best deals that anybody has done in Serie A this season, especially on the terms that we have agreed. DiMarzio has just reported that it's, I think, between 10 and 11 million if we want to buy him next summer. But this is an upgrade. This is a big upgrade on Bakayoko. You've got to look at his underlying stats for things like that. I haven't got them with me, but his stats for Villarreal were superb. I think he played 36 games for Villarreal, and reportedly Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid were interested in taking him the following summer. But obviously, he went back to Fulham. Fulham got promoted. He went back to play in the Premier League. And again, in a team that really struggled last season, Fulham were really, one of the whipping boys of the Premier League, with all due respect. But Zambo Anguissa really, really stood out. And it showed. He actually, even a team that got relegated, I think it was either 4 or 5 man of the matches he was given last year, which just goes to show in a team that aren't playing very well and aren't getting results, he was recognised for the performances that he was putting in. And he fits the criteria that Napoli have reported been looking for all summer. We've been saying it's a Bakayoko replacement. They need to be physical. They need to be strong. He ticks all those boxes. He's a very physical player. He's a strong player. He's a tall player. He wins a lot in the air. He wins a lot of headers. He's a really solid tackler. But he's a superb dribbler as well. He can carry a ball forward. He can help in that transition phase. I think he was 3rd in the Premier League for dribbles last season, behind Adama Traore and I think Alan St. Maximin at Newcastle. And you consider all those quality players in the Premier League, he was third for the most dribbles. And like I say, that's just another asset to his game alongside his aerial ability, his tackling ability. I think he's huge upgrade on Bakayoko last season. And like I say, to get him, I think I saw it was a €400,000 loan. And perhaps
it's a steal.
Yeah, it's an absolute. And I think maybe to get that deal as it is, we had to wait until late in the market. I did say a couple of weeks ago when I was talking to Joe that I think a lot of these deals will be done late, purely because with COVID hitting and everybody struggling for money, people want sort of crazy fees for players. And the later the market gets, the more realistic you have to be. That's just how it works. And I'd imagine with obviously Fulham dropping back into the Championship, they probably wanted to get him, even with the parachute payments that they'd be receiving from the Premier League. I'd imagine that they probably wanted to get him off the wage bill. I don't think he probably wanted to play in the Championship, which is another thing I'd just like to touch on slightly, because obviously he was loaned out to Villarreal the last time that Fulham got relegated. They're a bit of a yo-yo club. They come up, they go down. And I think maybe he's one of those players that he wants to be playing at that top level. He's shown a level of ability that he can play at the top level. And that's the kind of mentality we want. We want players that they want to be playing at the top level. They want that passion. They want to show what they can do. Players that want the ball, and he wants the ball. Like I say, he loves to dribble, and he's really good at taking the ball in tricky situations, finding the passes. I think his pass succession rate has been over 85% in each of the last 2 seasons of Villarreal and then Fulham. So, he's a really good passer. He uses the ball well. And he's got skills as well. Yeah.
I was just going to say, he's kind of skillful, isn't he? And
yeah, he likes
something. I want to touch on something else that you brought. I do want to touch on something else that you brought up, which really struck a nerve with me, and in a good way. Don't get me wrong. Henry Bell, Dr. Henry Bell, on Far From Vesuvius, he said numerously that the doctor, Il Dottore di Napoli, that's
Doc,
the man.
Can we call him Doc?
He mentioned.
Can we call him Doc now? I feel like
we can call him Doc. Doc Napoli.
Henry.
Yeah.
Dr. Henry
he
Bell,
mentioned
if you're hearing this right now, I want to call you Doc. Sorry.
That's it. He mentioned that's okay. He mentioned quite vividly that what Napoli was missing in the midfield is a proper ball winner. And you're telling me that Anguissa here comes in as a ball winner. Could this be the piece that Spalletti needed to complete this team? Another thing I want to also bring up and segue is that €400,000 loan deal for this season. Was that a big reason why reportedly ADL has unplugged his phone to Massimo Ferrero at Sampdoria for Andrea Petagna? Because he had said numerously, ADL, if we're going to make a deal, we got to sell. If we're going to make a deal, we got to sell. Well, 400,000 doesn't warrant a Petagna sale when Petagna came in yesterday and scored the match winner. And like we said yesterday, that's 4 match winners off the bench out of 6 total goals in the Napoli jersey. There's no reason for me that we need to sell Petagna this right now. Yeah, from Marie, mind you. could this be the piece that Napoli needs to really, really contend for Scudetto?
Yes, in my opinion, yes. He is a player who can make a big impact. He's the kind of player, and especially now, I mean, obviously, we've played 4-3-3 the first 2 games of the season, which has been, probably a necessary thing, given the players, given Deme out injured and not being able to play that double pivot. And I think yesterday's game, actually, I think we saw a reason why going back to the 4-2-3-1 will really help us, because the goal we conceded, if you go back and you watch it again, look how narrow our defence is. And we're playing with a narrow defence because we're playing a 4-3-3. So we've not got as much cover in front of the defence. So we're trying to keep it narrow and compact so that we can't get balls played through the defence. Now, the goal that we conceded, the ball went over Mario Rui, who then had to run and try to block the cross coming in. The ball then goes all the way over all 4 Napoli defenders to Cambiasso at that post. Okay, Di Lorenzo was a bit reminiscent of the Euro 2020 final, the Luke Shaw goal. Yeah,
a bit.
It goes straight. But the fact that the ball, it comes over to the right wing, and then one pass goes over all 4 Napoli defenders, shows how narrow we were playing. And with a 4-3-3, like I say, you need to play narrow. You need to be compact because you haven't got that big block in front of you. When we go back to the 4-2-3-1 and we've got the double pivot, those players are protecting the defence more. So the defence can be looser because they've got those 2 players protecting them in front. So a player like Anguissa and what he can bring to Napoli, I mean, you say about tough tackling and being a tough tackling midfielder. I think off the top of my head, he does something like 2.2 tackles a game, 1.6 interceptions. So, he's really good at just, being in that midfield, breaking up the play. And like I said, the fact that I'm not sure Napoli have really had a player like him in recent years who can play in that position and carry the ball forward. We've had great passers. Players, maybe Alan, you could argue he used to carry the balls a little bit, but we've had great passers. Jorginho and Alan, and Lubbock has been fantastic this season. I think every Napoli fan will agree with that. But having a player of his ability who can win the ball, but then carry that ball forwards as well. And we all know how dangerous our attackers are. If we've got a player that can carry that ball and pick passes out, then, I think he could make an absolutely massive difference to Napoli this season. And the fact that we can go back to, now he's here, we can go back to that 4-2-3-1, especially with Juventus coming up to our next game. Yeah, I'm really excited. He was a player that I think we and you touched on, Raff, a couple of weeks ago when we were chatting, saying that Napoli very often get linked with players and then end up signing them 2-3 years later. And we did get linked with Anguissa a few years ago. But he's one that wasn't really on my radar. He's not really been reported much this year. And he's kind of come out of the blue. And at first I was, and then when I looked into it, I looked at his underlying stats, and I went back and looked at some of his performances. I'm really excited. I really do believe that this is a massive upgrade for Napoli. And the deal, I mean, we touched upon ADL earlier. I mean, come on, how many good deals has ADL done? He does. I mean, he knows how.
It gets so overlooked, though, Jay. It gets so overlooked because of all the other BS. It really does. He's a mastermind when it comes to haggling. It's as if he's an actual Neapolitan. I mean, the guy knows how to haggle, dude. I mean, he knows exactly what to do. He does. Again, I'll bring it up again. Fabian Ruiz is another name that we could talk about, like being a low-key transfer of the season. When his first season at Napoli, everybody was talking about Cristiano Ronaldo coming into Juventus, but Fabian Ruiz was like the pearl, and whatever he's doing now is neither here nor there if you like him or not, but it's a steal. These deals that come in are a steal. And again, I'll say it again. Maybe we can segue into this, unless Raff, you had something to add about Anguissa.
The only thing I wanted to chime in about, first of all, I just checked. I was on erianapoli.it just now, and it says that he will sign in the morning. So I'm assuming he passed his medical today because So that's number one.
Di
So
He
Marzio
was in for
reported that as well.
medicals. Yes, DiMarzio
Yeah.
reported that. Yeah. So when you hear
we
from
should get the
DiMarzio, it's
officials-
pretty much a lock, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we should get the official word tomorrow morning. We'll probably wake up to this.
Now,
I know-
Mercato closes at what, 6 p.m. Eastern time? So what is that, 11 your time there?
Yeah, 11. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
11. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to add is that, when I saw Anguissa, I was happy that we went for a guy who is going to add height, strength, a physical presence in the midfield, because it's one thing that I thought we were lacking, and it's one thing that I thought we were needing. Bakayoko, fine, maybe he wasn't the player that everybody expected, or we didn't get out everything that we wanted from him, but he was a big guy. He was a big guy and a big presence in the midfield, and I wanted something like that, and I'm glad that we had this type of player to come in and fill that hole, because it's something that we really need when the game's on the line and we got to hold the game, or we need that physical presence. He might do this job well for us, and I'm looking forward to it. I know his coach, it was another article that came out, Javier Galeja, I believe his coach from Villarreal, had said all those things that you had mentioned, Jay, but that he had some he needs some work on the finishing. So that was like the only complaint I heard about the guy. Now, considering our front line, that's okay. I mean, I think the job for finisher is filled. That position is filled, and we'll be quite all right. We're not going to need him to go out into the field and score us goals. I mean, if he like to, he can, of course. But I'm just really happy to have another big presence in the midfield, and I hope it works out for us, because we deserve this. We deserve this, man.
Absolutely. And I think, honestly, this is such an upgrade on Bakayoko, because, like you say, he'll do all the things that Bakayoko did. He's that big, tall presence, strong presence, really physical, but he's just got so much more to his game. His his dribbling ability alone. To be third in the Premier League on his dribbling ability, playing in a Fulham team that got relegated, it really does go to show his class. And like I say, the fact that I can't remember, it was 4 or 5 man of the match performances in a team that were really, really struggling. Which, like I say, it goes to show just how bright he's shone, even in a struggling team. And now you put him into this Napoli team where, again, all due respect to Fulham, but you put him in with players like Fabian around him, Zielinski around him, Koulibaly playing behind him. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I really don't think that, especially for the money as well, because I just think it's such a good deal. I don't think we could have found a better player. We've been linked with many players. I mean, Amrabat's a player that I really did want. I wanted him in January 2020, and of course, we got Rachmani, we got Patania, and when we were linked with him again, I was hopeful we'd get him again. But after this news, I'm not even disappointed. I genuinely think that Anguissa can be a real rock for us. I think he could be, in a market where obviously we've done very little business, although we've not needed to do business. We're not replacing players. Right. Yes, we had a couple of players leave as free agents, but we're not Atalanta, who've had to replace Romero, who was the defensive MVP last season. We're not Juventus, who have lost Cristiano Ronaldo. We're not Inter, who've lost Lukaku and Hakimi. We're not having to plug holes. So we're not having to do loads of business. And as Raff touched on earlier, we're Scudetto contenders this year. We've got continuity on our side. We've got a team that know
I think
each
it's
other.
easy.
We've now... Sorry, go on.
No, I'm sorry. I think it's easy Scudetto contenders. And again, like I said, if there could be 3 or 4, but it's going to be close. And you said that we don't have to plug holes, but a lot of people are still asking for a left back. So what's the deal with that? Like, do you think there's going to be a surprise move in the last second for some sort of a left back that everybody's clamoring for, or do you think that ADL knows and hears the
I still
voices?
think Juan Jesus was
and
I
think Juan Jesus is. I think you're right. I think he's a suitable enough backup to Mario Rui, but also plays center back too. And if you ask me, I think the Mercato's over. But what's the chances of Napoli snagging that last second deal, or is this it? You think?
Personally, I do think that's it. I think Raff, you've hit the nail on the head. I think Juan Jesus has basically been bought in to, yes, be the fourth choice centre back, but as well probably cover at left back. I think one thing that
you and I went back and forth, by the way, on Twitter about this on one of your posts. I think I mean, it was a small back and forth, but we did have this conversation, and it seems like it's kind of going in that direction now. But please continue.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, what some people probably forget is obviously we have still got Gulam, who is actually on a lot of money, and he's got a good contract, and obviously we've got Mario Rui as well. And I think obviously we tried to sell Mario Rui to a Turkish club. Can't quite remember who it was earlier in the market, and obviously that didn't go through. I believe. Yeah. And that didn't go through, and I think obviously we've got Mario Rui. Gulam will reportedly be back soon. I think the end of September we might be able to see him back. So I think that probably is it, to be honest. I don't think we'll go out and sign, and especially now, like we said, we've got Juan Jesus who can play left back. So in effect, we've got Mario Rui as the starter, which won't please a lot of people. But we've also got Gulam there when he's back, and Juan Jesus can play there as well. So as much as I would love to see a left back, let's face it, that's been a problem position now for a couple of years, and it's a sad circumstance with Fawzi Gulam, really, because we all know what he was before the injuries, and as somebody who's had terrible knee injury himself, I couldn't sympathise with him more, because he was absolutely sensational before those injuries, and he's a great person off the pitch as well. That's another thing I love about Napoli. We're very good at finding good people. A lot of the players, Victor Osimhen, that if you saw a couple of months ago, sent a sewing machine to somebody, said that they could feed their family. They could do some sewing and feed their family. Kalidou Koulibaly, there was a story about he pulled up on a day when it was raining, the traffic lights, opened the boot of his car and handed out coats to all the homeless people.
That's cool.
Lorenzo Insigne at Easter sent a load of Easter eggs to the local hospital. Fawzi Gulam himself went out during the COVID lockdowns taking food parcels. Yeah, Napoli, they're very good at it's genuine, good people. But yeah, it's just sad.
I know, Jay, you said you haven't been to the city yet. It's something that you plan on doing hopefully in the near future. And I'll tell you, man, Napoli I want to read a comment out here, but before we move forward, but I wanted to say to you that, when you do, is it a bit of a crazy, hectic city? There's a beautiful chaos to it. Absolutely. It has its faults, I guess, just like New York City, just like any city, really.
Every does.
But
every
let me
city
tell you,
does.
It is one of the most hospitable places that you can go to. I mean, the people are really, really warm. They're really down to earth. They love to make people feel good,
Right, and if you love Napoli, they love you, no matter where you're from.
Yeah, that's just the thing, and that's the other thing. It's like, look, I mean, we just by you sharing news, what we've embraced from you, and like, oh wow, you know what I mean, and what you see here is
you don't need to be
get.
born in Napoli to be in Napoli.
It doesn't matter.
That's
None of that matters. Yeah. It's just if you're a Napoli fan, that's it. You're in the family. It's really you've been baptized. You're here. You're in. Let's go. I want to read a funny comment because Quentin always hits us with the comedy, man. I thought this was funny before we move on from Anguissa's. I saw on Swiss Twitter that we are getting Anguissa because we are saving money because he fits the mask that Inler wore for his presentation. Thank you again, Quentin, for blessing us with comedy, right?
Inler.
That's so funny. I want to talk about. Let's move on a little bit. So we're pretty much we're content in midfield. We got what we got out of Juan Jesus.
I mean, now we're stacked in midfield. Before,
I guess you can say that, right? You can say that.
I mean, we because you got Demick coming back still. Zielinski's still on the mend, and with Laboca, Fabian, Gaetano, that's another thing. I guess actually, Raff, I'll stop you really quick.
Go ahead.
From moving on. The last thing I would do, because it just popped into my brain. It just popped into my brain.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're expensive.
Yeah.
I got to send you that Venmo, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, you're
Anyway, I do. I just remember. Anyway,
It was like
Jay.
Okay, go ahead.
Pop, listen. This is how my brain works. Jay, Gianluca Gaetano. Okay, Gianluca Gaetano. Now that we basically have Anguissa in, is this a lock for Gianluca Gaetano to be loaned back out to Cremonese? Do you think that that's going to happen? You think so? Okay.
Yeah,
what
I'm
about the rest of the
confident that'll
kids
go
that are
through.
there? You got Zanoli on the left back position, Unas, the rumor about Unas. I feel like if anybody's going to go, it's going to be Gaetano. I hate to see him leave because honestly, the 2 games I've seen him play, he hustles his butt off, man. And it would be great. I'm tired of all the loaning out. If we're gonna sell him, let's just get rid of him.
Right.
But Gaetano is the one that of all of them that I want to keep on because I think he's got some potential. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've been banging this drum for a while about Gaetano. I mean, he was on the bench in the Ancelotti days. That's when he first started, sitting on the bench, and of course he's been out on loan since. And obviously he only played a couple of minutes when he came on yesterday. Played a bit longer, obviously, in the first game against Venezia. And I'm glad you brought this up actually, because this is a topic that really frustrates me. Maybe because obviously I do cover a lot of the transfers, things like that. But players on loan, how many players did Napoli have returned from loan this summer? How many do you think?
A lot.
Quite a bit. Not Juventus numbers, but
No,
quite a bit.
Go ahead.
Would you be surprised if I told you it was 19?
Wow, that's more than I thought. That's a lot more
19.
than I thought.
Now, it gets worse. It gets worse because I completely agree with you about if these players aren't going to play, if they're not going to play for Napoli, let's sell them. 14 of those 19 players are aged 23 or older.
Oh.
And let's go one step further. 8 of those players are 25 or older.
Oh, wow.
I saw that.
To me.
So this is the
McCracken.
Primavera that didn't play. This is the Primavera that didn't get relegated to Primavera 2 that are sitting out somewhere being wasted or just kind of, we're feeling them out. Let's see what they're doing and then bring them back just to sell them.
Well, the thing is, I mean, in those stats, say Kevin Malqui's in there, who, in all fairness, he was loaned out to get game time, get match fitness after a long injury. Understandable. Right. Unas is obviously 24. He was out on loan. He could be functional coming back now. But those 24 players had a combined transfer marked value of 24 million euros, which to me is sort of money sitting there. If we're not going to use these players, I tend to think the loan system works for everybody. It works for the team loaning a young player out because they're getting a player who's going to go and get valuable experience. Obviously, the player benefits from getting that valuable experience. The club they go to benefits from having that talented young player coming and helping them out and playing for their team. But at what point does these loans, season after season, become pointless? For me, by the time a player gets to 23, 24, if you don't see them breaking into your team, then is that the time where you should move these players on?
It's a good question. It's the $25 million question, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, especially in a year like this year where there is a need to go and do transfer deals. There we go.
Quinton 24 million. That's almost enough to buy Lobotka, he says.
Quinton is our resident
a funny
Chad.
guy. He's a comedian.
If Lobotka keeps playing the way he is, that will only be half of the transfer fee come the end of the season.
That's right. That's right, man.
But yeah, these players. Obviously, Unas has come back, and he could be. I would love to see Unas stay. He's had a great season.
I think so too.
Of course, if he does stay, we need a renewal. He needs to renew. He's only got a year left on his contract, and
he ends the end of the season. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that he does stay. I mean, Spalletti obviously wants him to stay. He said the other day that he was staying when speaking to the press. He obviously wants him to stay, and we know he wants Battaglia to stay as well. To touch on Battaglia, and like I say, Malqui as well. He went out for a reason, and he's back. But these other players that keep going out on loan, Zinedine Mahash, he's reportedly going out on a loan with an option to buy again this year. but I just don't see the benefit, especially in a year like this year when, quite frankly, the transfer fees would be really, really useful. Like I say, last summer, we were blessed by the fact that we put all these deals in place that were basically bearing fruit last summer and bringing in the money last summer. And we didn't have that this year, but we did have a lot of loan players return in that, again, we're seeing them go out on loan. Gaetano, I'm confident, especially after Anguissa's come in today. Deme will be back soon. So Gaetano, I'm confident tomorrow we'll see him rejoin Cremonese on loan. And I think Palmiro, again, he will end up going out on loan. Zanoli, I think, is staying around. Spalletti wants him to stay in the group.
That was kind of like the deal, I think, from what I understand, was that I know maybe he didn't expect ADL to go out and get as much, but he did want to keep what he had. He didn't want a fire sale of players that he can probably utilize. We all know Spalletti said he is a corporista. He's a corporate coach, and he wants to do what he has. And I think part of not buying a left back was, hey, then, we need to keep Malcuit, who, by the way, I really liked Malcuit when he started first on his team. I thought he was a good player up until the injury. Then he obviously, he had those issues, but Malcuit was great. I thought he was a solid right back. But what have you? We have Di Lorenzo there now. Now we got Zanoli. But I think part of the agreement was, okay, you're not going to go splurge on a left back. You're going to keep Zanoli. We're going to try with this youth, and that's something that I like with Spalletti. And I'm going to let you finish, and then I want to get into one guy. We have a few more minutes left, guys. But sorry to chime in and interrupt you, Jay. But go ahead if you want to finish that up real quick, and then I want to get into Petagna before we leave. I feel like this is an important name right now that is not being spoken about as much. But Zanoli, that's where you left off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry before I cut you off.
No, I completely agree with you. I think it was almost Spalletti saying, well, okay, if we're not going to sign a player for that position, then let's keep Zanoli around. He did look good in the first couple of preseason games. He shaped quite well, and it's really nice to see a young player staying around because, as we've just said, you get so many that go out on loan season after season after season. It's really nice to see a young player come in. It was nice to hear. I don't know if you saw his comments a couple of weeks ago, but he was saying how the team sort of rallying around him, and he was learning every day. And
right,
sometimes I do wonder with these loan spells, would players be better off staying at Napoli and learning their trade from, some of the players that we have? We have some very good, experienced players who could pass on a lot of really, really great traits to these young up-and-coming players. Gaetano in particular, that you look at the players that we do have, the senior players that we have, and it's not just about teaching football technique, but sometimes about how to handle yourself, how to
it's maturity, right?
Mature,
growing.
mature.
Right.
And you think of Koulibaly and Mertens, who maybe a Scugnizo, he may be a little bit of a rascal, but his experience could be really, really good for the younger players.
Right.
But no, that
also happens to be a big.
I expect.
Hospital personality, Mertens. He's one of those guys too that can kind of embrace you, bring you in. We had said it that he should do it with Osimhen, and which you probably have done. That might have been confirmed, but yeah, no, I'm definitely with you there. We even saw. I mean, you could even speak to Job. I'm going to steal his stat here, but Antonio Cioffi last year, who had to, between all the injuries, saw a lot of, I guess, bench time, if you will. I think he had like 5 minutes in a game last year, but he went back to the Primavera after he left the Napoli bench, the senior team bench, and scored like 6 goals right on his way back or something in the Primavera. So he must have learned something, being with the senior squad, being with Gattuso, being with Insigne. It must rub off onto these players. Considering, you're an 18, 19-year-old chap, learning from these big guys, it must be quite the experience and quite the learning experience to bring with you. And I agree. Like, so, I understand the loans, but I'm a little bit more for ingrown kind of talent and taking if we're going to take risks, right? Why not do it with the guys that are growing up in the system? And I think that could lead in the long run. I'm not saying we should rely on it all the time, but in the long run, at least we can start developing a respectable system that kids can kind of look up to and say, hey, I can be on Napoli. I could be a champion, instead of everything kind of funneling to the north. And you know, we're feeding all these big northern teams. Meanwhile, all the talent, you know, is coming from the south. So I think it's about time that we retain that talent and kind of nurture them and grow them, and hopefully they can do something for us at a fraction of the cost than what it would do to kind of buy a foreign player. So I'm with you 100% there.
Yeah, but I think it will be the norm. I think to be honest, Palmero will leave, Gaetano will leave. I think the players that left on loan last season will leave on loan again. And I think that will probably we'll obviously have the announcement tomorrow of Anguissa. But I think after that, it will just be the departures of the players leaving on loan, and that will be Napoli's market closed.
Rafa?
Last thing I want to say, again, something popped into my head. African Cup of Nations, you know, the African Cup of Nations is coming. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of people kind of complain to an extent about us picking up a Cameroonian, that he's got to go away to the AFCON now, along with Osimhen and you know, Koulibaly, and you know, maybe Goulam if he's selected, if he's better, or what have you. But I think the good news for me is that the tournament is from the 9th of January to the 6th of February. We don't return until the 6th of January for, you know, after Christmas. So they're going to miss those games. But at the same time, they'll be back in time for European play. Now, obviously, only 2 teams go to the final. So when these games are done, the teams will disperse. I'm sure they'll get some sort of a break and then come back and retrain with the team. Are you at all concerned with the fact that we got another African player who's going to go away to AFCON? Because for me, I just think that it's, you know, a big reason why we're very upset is because of Koulibaly. We lose him for a month, and that kind of sucks because since he's the best defender in the world, you know, arguably. But do you think that the depth in the midfield is going to help cover that time frame? And also, how do you feel about if we finish first in the Europa League group, we don't play again until March. So we'll have our full squad back for Europe. So what do you feel about the AFCON and how it's placed in the middle, how we're going to lose these players? You know, why should ADL consider the AFCON when you have a real quality player at your disposal, but we're going to miss him for 1 month out of the season?
It's that thing. That's when the tournament is, and you know that when you sign players. So at that point, for ADL, he has to accept that if he signs an African player that is going to go and play in the AFCON, they're going to go and play in the AFCON. In terms of how it will leave the midfield, well, Anguissa will leave for the AFCON. Deme will be back. So in a way, it's no different from how we are now in the sense of Deme's injured and Anguissa's there.
Right.
So in that
we also have
Lobotka,
and
Zielinski,
let's face it, Lobotka,
Fabian Ruiz. Gaetano's still not gone. We'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens tomorrow. But if he's not, I mean, I think we're covered.
Just to touch on Fabian Ruiz as well, I think we're going to see a better Fabian Ruiz this season. No disrespect to Gattuso, because I liked Gattuso. Well, I didn't, then I did, then I didn't. It was a bit of a love-hate relationship. But ultimately, I liked Gattuso. And at the end of the season, I said I wouldn't have minded continuing with Gattuso. However, he was never obviously the most technical of coaches. He was never going to be the most technical of coaches. We saw how Fabian really flourished under Ancelotti. And I think with Spalletti coming in, who is a more technical coach again, I think he will bring the best out of Fabian Ruiz again. I'm not saying he's been terrible under Gattuso. He wasn't terrible. But I do think
out of position
he wasn't.
is most people's complaints. Maybe not quite where he needed to be. That it's word on the street. I'm just saying. Yeah.
I don't see him as a 10. I don't see him playing that. I know he's played that in the past, and he played it for Spain under 21s.
That was the argument, right?
But personally, I think he's almost an old-fashioned central midfielder. He is good going forwards, and we've seen with his shooting, as we saw again on Sunday. I think his last 7 goals now have all been from out of the box, haven't they?
That's his best weapon.
All of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, getting forward does suit him. Oh, fantastic! Yeah, but he's not. Again, I don't see him as an Anguissa type midfielder where he's going to get stuck in and getting in meaty tackles and things like that.
Right.
But I do think that Spalletti will bring back his best days. Will sort of get the best out of him again, get him going forward, because his best asset for me is picking out passes. He's brilliant when he just strolls into the opposition's half and he can pick out a pass. He sees Insigne going down the left, or Politano or Lozano going down the right, or even a straight ball through to Osman. That's his strength. For me, he's a very, very elegant player, very good passer. He protects the ball well, and he finds the passes. And we all know that he's got this fantastic shot. And I do think that Spalletti will bring the best out of him again this season. Another player, and I know you're keen on him too, is Almas, who I think can have a really, really big season. Yeah, I've been saying this all summer. Funnily enough, last year, for me, Lozano was a standout player in Castel de Sangro. Lozano had a great pre-season. And for me, the standout player this year was Almas. I mean, thankfully, the coverage, you get fantastic coverage from different places. I saw a lot of the pre-season training in Castel de Sangro and even more in Demaro. And I think Spalletti, with Gattuso saw Almas as a fantastic player to fit in where he needed a player. It was a case of, we need someone there, Almas can play there. I think Spalletti will try to put Almas in his more natural position. And I think we will see him improve for that. I think physically he's improved. He bulked up a little bit, right? Yeah. He looks the finished article this year. So he's another option in that midfield. Lobotka, we've seen physically he's a different player to the player he was last season.
Oh yeah.
And I commented.
And he had a great game last game.
Yeah, he did. He's had 2 great games. His first 2 games were great. I mean, I commented after the Venezia game, it was like a metronome. He was always available. He was, pass the ball on. And, I mean, it's night and day the player he was, obviously, last season to this season. Sure. And, again, that's no criticism of Gattuso. Because Gattuso, look at what he did with Lozano. Different coaches suit different players. And, different players prefer different coaches because of the way they coach. And Lobotka has clearly gone away this summer and thought, I want to prove myself. I want to prove that, I can play. Because, of course, Hamsik was a big advocate of Lobotka. Hamsik was, reportedly telling Gintoli and ADL, go and get Lobotka. He was another player that we've been following for a number of years. And he is almost like a new player on this team. We're talking about how Napoli's midfield might be struggling and lack of depth. He's like a new signing. Almas can almost be like a new signing if he's playing the way he's been playing in pre-season. And Anguissa, again, I can't say enough. Anguissa, I'm really excited. We've got Deme coming back, who we all love and appreciate. That feels strong. So with Anguissa going away for AFCON, that doesn't overly concern me. To touch on Goulam, I don't personally think Goulam will go. If you remember, a couple of years ago when Algeria won the AFCON, he actually played in Naples. He wanted to get fit for the new season. Yeah.
I do remember that. We actually, the Far From Vesuvius crew, myself, Marco Ken, went to, I went to Florida, and they met me in Michigan, and we were able to catch some of them in the basically the pre-match or post-match like interviews as they come out. I forgot what they called it. The it doesn't matter. Basically, there's like this time frame where they're coming in or they're coming out. You catch them, and I caught Goulam, and before my question, I thanked him for staying with Napoli instead of going to the AFCON when they won Algeria, and he was really appreciative of me saying that because he could have gone to be a champion in AFCON, and he just declined the offer to go to stay to train with Napoli to get a little better. This was after one of his injuries, and just such a great vibe from him. When I got to speak to him, so I don't think that he will go either, but there is an outside chance that he comes in, starts playing better, and maybe gets a call up. But at the same time, we've missed him for how many years now? It's not really going to matter if he does go.
No,
the point
exactly.
I'm trying to make, I think, is the point I'm trying to make is that it's just a couple matches, and the fact that we're as deep as we are now, we're deeper than we've ever been these last 2 seasons under ADL. And back when we lost, Koulibaly to an AFCON in the middle of the season, we sorely missed him. Yes, now we have a great replacement in Ramani, and Manolas isn't going anywhere. So I'm not very worried about this AFCON. A lot of people keep bringing it up, and it's like, dudes, guys, I know we'll miss our favorite players, but we're covered, if you ask me.
Yeah, and you have to remember as well, not only have we got that depth, but barring the return game against Juventus, the fixtures have actually fallen pretty kind for us. Obviously, that's only on paper. We all know these games can be tough. We saw that yesterday.
Play them on the pitch.
Genoa was a good game. But on paper, the fixtures have fallen quite kindly to us while the players are away on AFCON. I think just after they come back, I think we've got the game against Inter. I think that might be their first game back. So, yeah, in a way, we've kind of been lucky. I just saw a comment saying Unas could be called up for Algeria. I think that's probably a certainty. I think Unas. I'd be very surprised if he didn't go. He went a couple of years ago when they won it. Yeah, Unas. But I mean, if you look at it, we're probably. I think Gulen will stay, and Gisa will go. Koulibaly will go. Osman will go, and Unas will go. But as you've just said, when you look through the team, this is probably the first time in quite a while, even after a quiet market, where we've got genuine depth. I was explaining this, funnily enough. I was having a chat with one of my friends the other day, and we were on about the Scudetto and teams and their depth and so on. And I was just everything I was saying about Napoli. I was getting more and more confident about Napoli this season because. It's that it sounds. Lozano was fantastic last season. Well, especially until the injury, the hamstring injury. He was brilliant. Right. But you take Lozano out, and Politano went in and scored 9 goals and 5 assists. That's fantastic. You've got Osterman
great right side
up front, but then you've got Mertens who can play. Obviously, as we know, our top goal scorer. The false 9 as well. We know Spalletti can play with the false 9. Although personally, I think we got it wrong yesterday with the false 9. I personally think Lozano should have been the false 9.
We actually reported it as Lozano being the false 9 because
I think that's how it was generally reported.
Yeah,
it was. Foot Mob reported it like that. It was where we typically get our stats.
Tutto Napoli also reported it as that. That's where I got it from. It was Tutto Napoli. So I thought it was a sure thing, but.
I would have. Go on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. No. I think there was a couple of reasons. One, Lozano, he's used to playing that false 9. He's played it with Mexico a few times. Of course, Insigne is too. He's played for the national team, and he had a spell of being a false 9 under Ancelotti. And again, Insigne, he was good yesterday. I'm not criticising either Lozano or Insigne yesterday. However, personally, I'd have had them the other way around for the simple, 2 reasons really. One, Lozano has more pace. As we know, Osman's got pace, so we're used to trying to play the ball in behind, and I think it would have been more advantageous to have Lozano's
like
pace.
For like.
Right. Yeah. Secondly, and more importantly to me, go back and look at the first goal. That came from Insigne pulling out to the left, and he played his customary long ball to the right-hand side. Politano brought it down, laid it off to Fabian. We score a goal. Insigne.
Raff brought it up in the post-match rant yesterday.
Yeah, man.
For sure.
Yeah, we know that Insigne prefers play on the left, and it's not just because he can cut in and with his lovely curling shots. It's because that ball, as we called it for so long, the Callahan ball, that ball that he can play from the left wing over to the right, it opens teams up. And it showed it again yesterday. He pulled out to the left, he played that ball across, Politano brings it down, plays to Fabian, we score. So for me,
to add to that,
if we do end up in that.
If I can just cut you off to add to that, Lozano had made a run to the box along with Elmas. It gave a lot of trouble to the defense because they had to watch him, which Ruiz got a lot of space. He really only had one defender, and once he cut him, he let that left foot shot go, that beautiful, elegant shot, and then went right into the net, and he had all the time in the world to do it. And when you give him time to take that shot, it's a beaut, and it's
he very rarely misses.
Go in.
When he has genuine space, if he has a 5-yard box around him, he very rarely misses the target.
Nope.
He is that good. I remember his first game, it was a pre-season game, and he did that exact thing. He got the ball, 5-yard box, he put it in the top corner, and he's been doing it ever since. But I think having Insigne on that left wing, that ball for Napoli, how many goals have we scored from that ball over the last few years? Whether it's a direct assist, or whether it's an assist by passing it over and the ball's laid off for somebody else. That's one of our key sort of tactics for scoring goals.
Right, it's our money maker. It's like
Insigne, for me, must always play on that left.
I'm with you there, guys.
Fair points.
We are about the hour 15 mark, so we should cut out soon. Raff, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that. I'm going to put on a little closing music. I think we covered it all today. I think we did pretty good here today, Jay,
I think we did really well. I do.
Well. I'm curious to see what Petagna now and this whole Sampdoria. I wanted to mention it, but I think I'm going to wait because I'd like to see what happens.
Mercato's not over yet, right?
The Mercato's not over, right? We got to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. I'm sure we'll find out, whether Petagna is going to be in a Sampdoria jersey. There was a call from Juve, supposedly. There was a call from Atalanta. Who knows, how accurate these things are. But, after that, obviously, he scores the goal, his fourth game-winning goal coming from an assist from a free kick from Rui. He runs straight to the crowd, blows him a kiss, bangs on the window. And there was this moment
from who?
The last Petagna.
Yeah, no. From who? Who was it from?
From Rui.
The ball?
Mario Rui.
Oh, Mario Rui. Oh, the left back.
Okay, the left back.
You.
Yeah, the one that nobody likes. There are two people, ironically, that everybody gives shit to. I know they're not the best. They're not the most talented, but come on. Give them a little bit of credit. I'll say this much. The one thing that I really like about Petagna, that he adds one thing. No, he doesn't have the pace, and that's not the only attribute. We're out here playing FIFA with our fucking hands on turbo the whole time.
Yeah, but you don't need to have pace. You don't need to have pace in that position.
But that's what I'm saying, Rafa. That's what I'm trying to say. He adds another dynamic to the front line. He is big. He is strong. He has a laser header. I've been saying it since the start of the show. Laser header. That thing was a straight line into the near post. I don't even know how it went in. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm looking. I saw the replay. I'm like, that thing had to be on a clothing line, perfectly directed almost into the net. And he could do that. I want to see if we can just give him a little confidence. Maybe he loses a couple pounds. He can get a little bit faster. But I don't want all small speed. I want some strength on the field when we need it.
You need to have
Mertens is going to get pushed around. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have options on the bench. Right. Each game is different, especially when you're going up against some of these European teams. You need these options. It's not all about pace. I know we want speed. I know we like the youth, the energy, but it's not all about that, man. And I want the team to be well-rounded, and I think Petagna could be a part of that. So
the thing is, some teams, especially against Napoli, they're so defensive. They just sit back and they want to soak up pressure. And sometimes you need a bulldozer striker who can go in there and rough it up.
Right.
And, Petagna's that striker. He's something different. He's, and as it showed yesterday, he's well worth keeping around.
Sure. Guys, I'm going to put on some closing song here. Guys, I want to thank everybody in the chat for sticking with us tonight, man. We had a great episode. Certainly thank you to you, Jay. Let's plug you in real quick. I'm going to put it up here. Your handle, if you just want to mention it, talk about what you're doing there, where people can find you. I leave the spotlight on you. I'll give you a minute to talk about it.
Yeah, thanks, Raff. Yeah, it's just, obviously, as you can see, at SSC Napoli News. I'll always post news that I see, and I always post the sources. So you can pick which sources you want to believe, which ones you don't want to believe. It's just a way of bringing the news to you, so you can get it all in one place, basically.
Awesome.
If that's helpful to you, hit the link, hit follow.
Definitely highly recommend it, guys. At SSC Napoli News _. Check it out for the latest in the Mercato, latest in the news. Jay is certainly on top of that stuff, and as well as Far From Vesuvius and here on the rant, guys. Let's get a big Forza Napoli maybe in the chat. We'll end with that. Anything else you'd like to add here, Rafa? It was a great show today.
No,
man.
just want to say thank you to all who are watching live. I want to say thank you to all who might be watching on tape delay. Tape delay. I sound like I'm from the 80s. Thank
Who
you
says
for
tape
everybody
delay?
who's... Yeah, no, right? It's anyone watching later on YouTube. I want to say thank you to those who are downloading, liking, subscribing, rating Far From Vesuvius, and anybody who's listening on the audio podcast. Please don't drive and Raff. Listen to the podcast on your radio while you're driving. If you're having a jog, if you're having a workout, if you're having some physical exertion that is preventing you from watching the YouTube channel, listen to us on Far From Vesuvius, the flagship show of the Far From Vesuvius network. I just want to say thank you to Jay. Really appreciate you coming in here today, man. Really had a great chat with you. Something a little different, something that we absolutely appreciate all your work. And Raff, I want to thank you too for being the producer of the century, my man.
Thank you.
You
pleasure.
do so much hard work, and you make this show happen, dude. Without you, where would we be? Where would Raff and Raff be? I'm sort of debating shaving my head to make right on our logo. I think
well,
maybe.
No, I was, I needed space for the beard, and then
man, my hair is. Look at this mane. You guys saw it yesterday.
You can't do it. You need it.
I don't know. It's a trademark in the barbershop, but
if you
on
do
the
it,
Raff
will you
and
donate
Raff,
it, please?
Either way,
will you donate
yes,
it? Donate
absolutely.
It.
I'll donate
Okay,
it to
cool.
you. You need it.
Thank you. I was gonna say after. Go ahead.
Can I just say to you too as well? Thank you for all the content that you do give us. It's fantastic. I really enjoy your stuff. I know a lot of people do.
Thank you.
Thank you so
I love
much.
the post-game
I really
rants.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I love the post-game rants. I love this show. As you know, I watch it every week. I comment when I can. So thank you to you guys. You did a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
those
Jay.
kind words,
It really means a lot to hear that from people like you and from everybody else.
Yeah. We're a big team, big family here, and we
Tell you
all love
what.
Napoli. We're all trying to get it down. What's up, Rafa?
Jerry Mancini says us to get a room.
Where is he in here?
See,
get a room.
Jerry Mancini, get a room.
Shut up. I think tomorrow I should.
Jerry Mancini has been in here since minute 1, so he's in the room with us.
Love it.
He's
Gotta love
loving
it.
this content.
Yeah.
Sarri ball.
Be sure to
Mancini, how
check
you
Jerry
liking
and Alex
Sarri ball?
Dona. Yo, be sure. Right. We're gonna talk about that. I was gonna say, me and Jerry were going back and forth about this, and I'm a stickler for. I like Sadi. I still like him. I have to admit, but check him out.
I
tomorrow.
also want to really quick. Yes, Culture Connection. That's right.
Right. I
also
was just
wanna
gonna plug
thank-
him. Check him out tomorrow.
Yes, I want to
Jerry
thank.
Mancini,
Go ahead and plug
Alex
him. I'm
Dono.
sorry. Go ahead. The right.
Jerry
way.
Mancini,
Do it.
Alex Dono, the Culture Connection. They got a great live show that they do as well. Be sure to check that out. I should be on there tomorrow. I told them I'll get back to them, but more than likely they're going to talk market, and I wanted to talk Saudi, a little bit of Napoli maybe. So
Got to.
Get mine.
Yeah.
But guys,
I want to thank everybody who's playing the Podcast Predictions League. I actually want to extend an invitation to you, Jay, if you want in on it too. We have tons of Napoli content creators and just Calcio content creators that are in on it.
Yeah.
I know you missed the first 2 weeks, but it's cool.
maybe we'll give them
We're
some
always
makeup
looking for
games
new-
or something. Give a couple makeup games or something. No.
Hey,
No.
I'm
mean,
good. I'll start with the deficit.
All right.
Start with the deficit. Listen, the leaderboard is at 5, so it's not that big a deal. But you know what? Maybe we will consider that. Maybe we will consider the players who are coming in that want to start from a deficit. Maybe we'll give them some Coppa Italia matches. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe they can get Coppa Italia matches and try to catch up. I think that's a good idea, Ralph. I think we figured something out today, huh?
Let's talk about it. Yeah, all right, we did it, bro.
Little production meeting inside the show.
Really, we are. Guys, let's get out of here. Thanks again to the chat. Thank you, Jay from Napoli News.
Thank you,
Rafa,
chat.
great show as always. Thank you again. We love y'all. Forza Napoli sempre. We'll see you again soon.
Sempre. Ciao, 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 ciao.